Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. You're probably looking at your screen going, that's a scrumptious looking black man. And you're right. My name's Preacher Mars, comedian extraordinaire. Now, brothers and sisters, you're probably saying, what looks better than that black man right there? I'll tell you. The thought of giving the people in need and assisting them when they need it. Sounds good to me. With that, I introduce the Launch Good Ramadan Challenge. Again, that's the Launch Good Ramadan Challenge, which I'll be highlighting on my show, the Shout Out Show, the last 10 days of Ramadan. Now, brothers and sisters, don't miss out. I'm going to tell you why. I am a good looking black man, yes. I'm a comedian extraordinaire, yes. But the Ramadan Launch Good campaign is a dope project. And I tell you, if you join, you might actually be as dope as me. Now, some of you going, Preacher Moss, I've heard people talk about the Launch Good Ramadan Challenge. What makes your message so different? I'll tell you why. I have a fireplace. Flame on. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. And our episode today is it's just Tuesday. Yeah, it's just Tuesday. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you spending your time, your energy, your effort, your spirit. We need it at this early juncture of the week. That's number one. Number two, I want to give a shout out to my co-host. My co-host, that's what I said, Sister Satana Whitfield, who did an amazing job yesterday. Great topic, too. Great topic. If you didn't see it, you need to go back to yesterday's show. Check it out, talking about women in business, Muslim women in business, what we need to be doing to assist our sisters, what sisters need to be doing to assist themselves. This is part of the puzzle, brother. This is we're putting things together coming out of COVID. So this is one of these coming out of COVID shows. Now, before I get started, I want to give a shout out again to Launch Good. Make sure that you follow them at launchgood.com. I'm sorry, launchgood.org. And they are running their Ramadan campaign. The Launch Their Ramadan Challenge is what they're calling it. And basically, they're challenging people to be even more forthcoming with their charity and challenge themselves. Give a little bit more than you normally give. Seek out people who are trying to do good work. Be a part of those collectives. That's all it is. You know, everybody's trying to get their blessing in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Can you believe it's the last 10 days? I remember the first day. Now I think we're like 8 out. Man, this has been an amazingly quick Ramadan. I'm still waiting for that one Ramadan day. Was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Haven't come on it yet, but I don't want to speak too soon. Want to give a shout out to my brother Johnny L. Thomas, LJT, who's trying to hold it down, but I think he got some mismailed cramps coming. Hold on in there, brother. Hold on in. You can make it. Trust me. So those things are being said. Let me also throw this out. Big shout out to Sister Ree, who provided the shout out show with the meal of the day, which is chicken wings and, of course, dirty rice with turkey in it. Sounds good. So that part of the show is different. Let me give you the part of this show that is not different. This part of the show is just welcoming people. If you're coming to the show for the first time, we appreciate you. Make sure you get in that comment section, the subscription button, the notification button, the like button. If you like the show, we'd love to have you back, and we'd like to let you know when the show comes on. We're going through some changes, as you can see. We got different angles on the cameras. But the most important thing is we're trying to get this show better for everybody, because people who come on the show, people who check the show out, they have expectations. We, the people who produce the show, the producers, we have expectations. We're trying to grow this thing to make it something meaningful and of value. Okay? Now, if you're coming for the show, like I said, jump in the comment section. Don't be shy. You're amongst family. This is probably one of the most friendliest shows you're ever going to see. And you get multiple chances to be a part of the community because we are daily. That's right. We go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Almost like IHOP or Denny's. We never close. That's right. Now, let me give a shout out to our people in the comments section. Well, we loaded up today. Shout out to Sister Ree, who, again, is a craft services and show dietitian. How many people have a show dietitian? She is it. Sister Ree is making sure that the staff, myself, stays eating well and eating healthy. And we appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Sister Ree. And she gives a shout out to the family. Big shout out to Mary Moss. I hope you are feeling better, recovering. Please, don't do too much. And a shout out to Miss Eleanor, who has been indispensable, working with my mom and making sure she's doing well. Shout out for my aunt too and my cousin. We had quite the laugh while I was home, and it was hilarious, and I appreciate those times. Okay, who else we got? Oh, big shout out to Derek. Derek's supposed to be Derek is a barber, so he's actually going to be the show barber, hairstylist, the show hairstylist, and hopefully he'll clip me up tomorrow because I got gray hair. Just so y'all know, I have gray hair, but I just want you to know this: I dye it gray. I dye it gray because I want people to understand all this wisdom I have. If I had black hair, you wouldn't believe it's for me. So I dye my hair so I look wise. Now, if that wasn't a lie, that was okay. That was so far over the top. Okay, let me give a shout out. We have our ambassador, Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, my main man, Altaf Rashid. He is the Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show. He covers everything from Ottawa to Toronto to Vancouver to Saskatchewan. He covers all of it. Excuse me. He represents Canada. And he comes on the show. Let me add this. He comes on the show and he's on time. He's on time. You never have to look for Altaf. You never have to look for Ree. You don't have to look for JT. You don't have to look for folks on the Shout Out Show. Because, every day this is our meeting place. All right. Sister Ree is cracking jokes on me, I see. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh, Brother JT. Man, I hope you're hanging in there. I got your text, brother. Every once in a while when you're fasting, it may go smooth, but you're going to have a day. It's called a bump in the road. What you're probably going through right now is you have a certain amount of heat right here. And when you burp, the heat comes out your ears. That's called the Ramadan heats. It come out of everywhere but your nose and your mouth. So don't worry about it. You're going to get to, and here's the funny part. When you finally get to the food, boy, you are going to appreciate that food. But you're not going to be able to, gorge yourself on the food. You're going to appreciate it. Like I said in the text, man, part of that is the spiritual thing going on inside of you. That hunger, it connects you with people. Like I said, it connects you with people who are hungry all the time. Not hungry because they're fasting, but that's their continuous state. They're hungry because they don't have food. So, important part of your spiritual development. Again, I appreciate you for going the length. You're in the last 10 days of Ramadan, brother. The last 10 days of Ramadan, and you are standing tall. I appreciate you. Now, so Reed's liking that joke. I did dye it gray. Reed, ask my mom. So, shout out also to Sister Satana. I gave us a shout out at the top. Sister Satana, thank you so much for holding it down. Yesterday was one of those days, and when you have to put in that work, brothers and sisters, you have to put in that work. Ironically, it was the last day I had to record for the universal title, the Muhammad Ali documentary podcast on his spiritual journey. It was the last day, and I'm here to tell you, as much as I loved it, at the end it was a little sad that I come to, when you're reading a script and it's at the end it says stop here, and that's the last time you're ever going to read. So, big shout out to America Media Abroad. Shout out to you. Big shout out to PRX. Big shout out to the Muhammad Ali Center, Maggie Van Dorn, Precious Muhammad, Aaron Lobel, Doug Robinson, and myself. Thank you so much for putting this together, man. It's a dream. It felt like, not just doing voiceover work or hosting. You know what it felt like, people? It felt like a trust. Like if somebody said, "Tell Muhammad Ali's story," and you're the voice, it's like I just want it. And I'm sure all of us had this experience before. That's something you feel like somebody's entrusted you with something. And all you want to do is do your best. So I hope if you're enjoying the podcast that you appreciate that I was trying to do my best, and that's all it is. And big shout out to Louis Gossett Jr., who was the original person that was supposed to do the host and narration, but he took ill with COVID. I hope you've recovered. So let's get to the topic at hand, if you will. So I'm going to go to my other camera. The topic at hand, brothers and sisters, is a simple. It's checking in on friends and family. Checking in on friends and family. I know we check in on our friends and family, repeatedly, but I think it's become more important, particularly with a health crisis around. Let me say it again. We check in with our friends and family normally. I think it's more important with a health crisis around. Like, I find that I'm a lot more astute about people in my circle who have health issues. Not because they have health issues or even pre-existing health issues. It's just the fact that, to me, the nature and the process of healthcare has changed. We have moved in healthcare to a COVID economy because those are the things that take up the ICUs, the ventilators, and things like that. And what I've also found that even though we're getting vaccines, a lot of people are having a really difficult time trying to connect with one another. You know what I'm saying? I think it's interesting because people have a difficult time connecting with one another. Like, there are people, they're married couples who have been together 20, 30 years, and in COVID they're at each other's necks. And the reason is balance. You require balance in a marriage. You require balance in a friendship. And I think those are the things we're not really talking about. But I think we should talk about that. Sometimes you gotta leave the house. My friend Corey Holcomb always makes a joke about dudes want to leave the house, get away from their ladies. But there's something there, and I think the other part of the joke is the ladies really want you to leave and go out somewhere because you just need that break. Everybody can't be in everybody's space. But the ironic thing, and I brought this up in the Ramadan reflection, is the fact that as things begin to loosen up, as work begins to come back, as shows begin to come back, as people begin to congregate more and more and more, there is that issue, brothers, is that people are having a very difficult time engaging with one another. Let me tell you what I mean. I had a show down in University of Florida. Now, it was the first live show I had done in well over a year. I had to fly down. Flying was okay. I had to drive there, but it didn't really hit me the extent that COVID had really wreaked havoc till I got on stage and I looked out at a place that normally holds, I don't know, 1,000 people. They normally have 1,000 people for their fastathon, right? I looked out and it was like maybe 70, and it was really, really spread out. And then on top of it being spread out, brothers and sisters, everybody had a mask. And for one of the few times in my comedy career, I really couldn't read the audience. Like, I literally could not read the audience. You didn't know who was laughing, who was laughing, who wasn't laughing, but you couldn't hear because it was so far away. I point that out because recently I saw someone I haven't seen in a long time, and it took a minute to adjust. Someone I'm really, really close to, but over this period of COVID, we really hadn't communicated in person. Like, it's such a benefit to be able to communicate with people in person. I mean, phones are nice, FaceTime's nice, things like that, but that one-to-one is important. I wouldn't even say it's a substance of community. Community didn't start out, of course, with cell phones and telephones. What it adjusted itself to, that people had phenomenal, phenomenal creative expression in terms of language. I mean, think about the whole idea of language. I was in D.C., or I was in Southeast D.C. for Juma. Check this out. I was in Southeast D.C. for Juma. We didn't have the prayer in a mosque. What we did was we prayed outside the old Sister Clara Muhammad School on Martin Luther King Avenue. The school's been closed for a moment. It's going to be big shout out to Bannock Adventures and Omar Kareem. It's going to be developed into a retirement senior living center. But this is the thing: we they laid out the I guess the plastic for us to pray on. We did that. We finished praying. Everybody sort of like congregating as much as we could. And a guy came in with another guy and said this guy wants to take his shahada. He wants to declare his faith for Islam. And I was like, wow. So his brother wants to convert. And everybody's happy. He goes, well, here's the problem, though. He wants to convert. He says, but he's deaf. He said he's deaf. And at that point, he began doing sign language with the brother that was deaf. And I was like, oh, I don't remember being at a shahada like this one that's about to go down. And all of us were together. And we were trying to figure out, the proper way to do this. When I say the proper way, it's like, there's a way. In a verbal shahada, people recite the shahada in Arabic. They recite the shahada in English, takbir, everything moves on. But we were confronted with the fact that our communication was compromised. Compromised is wrong language, I'm sorry. It was different because the person who was taking shahada was deaf. And we literally, as men, sat around. We were so overjoyed for the guy, but we were standing here going, how do we do this? How do we do this? So long story short, one brother, Muhammad, said, what we'll do, he said, I'm going to write it out in Arabic. He's going to read it in Arabic. And he said, I'm going to have him write it back to me in Arabic. So that justified it. So he wrote it in Arabic, and the guy wrote it back in Arabic, so he knew the Arabic part in some way, shape, or form was expressed. Then he wrote it out in English. Muhammad wrote it out in English. Then the guy wrote it out in English. And that was it. And I'm going to tell you, one of the biggest blessings I ever had during Ramadan. This really, really stuck with me. After he took his shahada, we were yelling takbir, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest. Totally understanding that this guy couldn't hear us. He couldn't hear us. He was deaf. Takbir, 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 Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar. And I show you how Allah works. We were yelling takbir, and the guy who did sign language was figuring out takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar. And though he couldn't hear us, this guy was so freaking happy. I don't know who was happier, us or him. But there we are, grown men, yelling, screaming, tears coming down our face. Because this brother wanted this religion so badly. And we wanted him to have it so badly. And we said, how did this come about? So how did this thing come about? How did you come to bring this brother to Juma? Because they came right when we were leaving. Can you imagine if we left on time? If we didn't congregate afterwards? That brother would come to a parking lot and there was nobody there. And the fact that it wasn't even a regular site for prayer. It was a parking lot. Somebody told him we would be there. And he came, and we happened to be there, and we gave the brother his shahada. So the guy who was doing the sign language, I said, how did this come about? He said, he goes, well, he had been talking about Islam, about wanting to convert. He said, I was on my way over here. He said, I made a U-turn. He said, I decided to check in on him. And then at checking in on him, they wound up coming to last Friday's prayer. Now, here's my thing. There are all kinds of hadith and religious sayings about checking on one another. The whole phrase of am I my brother's keeper, literally, brothers and sisters, it's a rhetorical question. Yes, I am. Even more so, at this point in time, I think it's really, really important that we do check on one another because the scope of mental health in the United States has that's been compromised. That's been compromised. That's been manipulated. We are living in very ill times. We're living in very uh, we live in times where there's a lot of trepidation about human exchange. Sometimes when I go out, I do want to know what that person beside me is looking for, looking at, or looking for. What are you thinking? And it does speak to the fact that communities have changed. Communities have changed. And I think communities have changed because communities become divided, because families became divided around politics, around race, around economics, even around religion. We still have these things in our society, in our midst. However, we do have a fiduciary responsibility to address them in a meaningful way. That people who have good in their hearts are allowed to be able to express the good in their hearts. It's almost like when you walk into a masjid, you don't look both ways to see if a car is coming. When you walk into a church, you don't duck down because somebody's taking a swing at you. These are places of peace. And if we can get our communities, in some regards, to frame ourselves as communities of peace, I think we'll all be better. Because, we've had the spate of mass shootings now. And sadly, a lot of us have become numb to it. When I pick up the phone, brothers and sisters, I'm like, almost sadly, I'm like, somebody got shot tonight. I mean, it was like that before, but now it's like, it's senseless violence. And I think it does, in some regards, balance against more and more what we're talking about. Because now you're talking about your families. What's the new generation going to look like? How can we put our imprint on that? And I think the way we put our imprint on it is checking on friends and family. And I don't mean once in a while. Pick up the phone. You call once in a blue moon. No, don't call once in a blue moon. Call twice in a half a moon. Surprise somebody, if you will. I'm going to show you guys this picture because I'm going to say I was really happy. I mean, I'm always happy to go to Juma anyway, right? But I'm going to show you this picture of this brother. I don't know if it'll work, but that was the brother I told you about. That's the brother who was deaf, declaring his shahada. It's the other picture of him. So the green screen kind of messes stuff up. So apologize, because I know it looked like something black, but it was actually the green screen. But those are my thoughts. Does anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I've been talking for a minute. I'm looking up like, oh my goodness, it's 23 minutes. I wanted to get that out. Thank you, Subhanallah. Exactly. That's the way I felt about it too, Sister Satana. Because there's so much beauty left in the world. And if you can't find it in the world, you can find it in your own house. You can find it in your own family. I owe calls to people. I owe calls to all my play moms. And I got a list of them. A call, a text, and it's funny when you call an elder and they haven't heard from you in a minute. That joy is amazing. There's a funny story about one of my play moms is Dr. Yvonne ShOUT. You guys know that's Dave Chappelle's mom. I call her mom. I call her Mommy Sion. She calls me son. All right? And we had been in touch. I would check on her, check on her, check on her, check on her. And I'm a mama's boy, so this is true. But it was a period where I didn't check on her. And it was to the point where it felt uncomfortable that I hadn't checked on her. To the point where I felt like it would be odd if I called her because the question was, why haven't you called me? Because the onus is on us as the youth, right? So there I am in LA with Imam Jihad Safir. And I never forget this khutbah. He begins the khutbah, then he stops. And he says, there's a problem in this community. And I'm like, well, it's your problem because I'm just visiting LA. I was kidding. I'm listening. He goes, there's a problem in this community. He said, there's a sister at one of these homes who's sad, lonely, depressed, and doesn't have appropriate clothing, clothing and supplies. And he goes, and that sister was a pioneer here. He goes, that sister, she worked her hands to the bone to make sure she raised me. She raised a bunch of me. He said, she's sitting there alone, and nobody's going to see her. And he says, before this match starts, he goes, all of us should be ashamed of ourselves. And he said, any of us that don't check on our elders, he says, we're not living this deen. You're not living your religion. He said, you're a faker. You are not living your religion. If you don't check on the elderly, man, that thing moved me so deeply that I called her up. And she said, hey, preacher. And she was in a good mood to hear from me. I was in a good mood. I said, Mom, stop. I said, Mom, stop. I said, let me, as a man, apologize that I have not been more diligent in checking up on you. Let me do that. Let me say that to you. And I have a lot of people to call. I do. I'm trying to get better in this Ramadan season. And it's, it's easy to say, you trying to get the blessings? Nah, man. The blessings are with those people. When they pick up the phone, you know what? It blesses all of us. So I'm going to say that. So any of us that have friends we haven't talked to them in a minute, pick up the phone, surprise them. Sometimes I'm riding down the street, I just go by to see somebody. I did that a couple months ago. Somebody I hadn't seen in a long time. I just went to their house. I wasn't looking for their car. I wasn't trying to peek and see if their garage was open. Just to say, hey man, are you okay? I'll tell you a funny story about checking on your friends. One of my elders in my mother's neighborhood, his name is Mr. Austin. And when I'm home, I do check on Mr. Austin as much as I can. This particular visit, I was home. I checked on Mr. Austin, and he told me he had some really bad health issues. He had some serious health issues. He had blacked out in his front yard. He had to go to the hospital. And he gave me a pretty dire picture of his health. I'm like, wow, Mr. Austin. And I came back. I went away on the road for a while, and I came back. And these things play on your mind in a healthy way, but also kind of a funny way. So I went to see Mr. Austin. No, I didn't. I rode past his house. I didn't stop. I rode past his house, and I saw all these cars by Mr. Austin's house. Like, I'd never seen this many cars, And I looked up and I saw these women coming out of the house very sad, like really, really sad. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? I didn't have the heart to go, hey, did something happen to Mr. Austin? And for the next 2 days, I kept going back and forth, like, what if he passed away, da-da-da. So, brothers and sisters, I was like, whatever it is, bad news, good news, I'm going to go check on my man, Mr. Austin. And I knocked on the door. His wife, Miss Austin, came to the door. She's like, hi, preacher, how you doing? I said, hey, Miss Austin. She says, what are you doing here? How can we help you? She's always so nice. And I said, Miss Austin, I don't even want to beat around the bush. Look, I know Mr. Austin had some health issues. A couple days ago, I saw a bunch of, ladies coming out here. They were really sad looking, and y'all were hugging, and I was really worried. And I said, let me just ask you from the bottom of my heart, don't be afraid. I goes, is Mr. Austin dead? And she goes, no, he's not dead. Hold on a minute. He's in the back. What? Preacher's here. And then he walked up and was like, hey, preach, how you doing? And I'm like, what are you trying to do with that? And I just looked at him. I said, hey, Mr. Austin, don't take it wrong. Man, I thought you were dead. And he was like, really? I said, yeah. I said, but you look good. But you look good. So my point, brothers and sisters, is let's check on one another. It doesn't have to be a whole long, drawn-out conversation. It could be a quick text if you need to be, or email, or snail mail. But make sure that when you reach out, you pull your hand back, you have some information about their brothers and sisters, about those brothers and sisters, or your parents, or or co-workers, because that really, in the space of this whole thing of, I want to say, emerging out of COVID, we stopped doing that. The vaccination, brothers and sisters, are not a cure. They are protection from COVID, but they're not a cure. The thing that remains steady is a rhetorical question: am I my brother's sister? Am I my sister's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? The answer is yes. So, in the words of that brother who took his shahada and couldn't speak, he couldn't hear. In his words, this is what he said: La ilaha illallah. So that's the end of my show, brothers and sisters. Listen, this is the wrap up. I will be doing Ramadan reflections tomorrow. And I'm going to really take some time to think about some of the stuff we've been through. And I want to get some special notes to people. Everybody's been on the show and checking out the show. You know who you are. Every day you're on the show. The Ramadan 30 for 30 crew. I have to do something for you. I don't know what I'm going to do, but just the fact that everybody's been checking out the show during Ramadan 30 for 30, 30 days. Now, we're not finished, so you got to stick through the 30 days. But it is nice to have you guys with me, because I'm going to tell you something. That half-hour space is really nice when you're with friends and family. All right, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss. This is the Shout Out Show. I hope to see you soon. Oh, before I go, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I shout out our sponsors. Of course, one of our sponsors is BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. The home and creation of Maxine B. Cade, Esquire. You can give her a call at 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. Listen, you'll be doing yourself a favor. And big shout out again to my brother Richard Sclafford that did the crypto show. He did an excellent job. I just want to shout that out. So, brothers and sisters, like I said, that's one thing. The other thing, our other sponsor, I want to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, that's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Listen, don't sleep on your religious literacy. Don't sleep on it. I mean, if you have a chance to understand but if you have a chance to understand religion in terms of practical application, and it's away from just the usual pedagogy. This is religion that's active and accessible and applicable. I think you should check out bayanonline.org is where you find it out. Get your information. Go to bayanonline.org. So that's it for my show today. You guys have been amazing. It went really, really quickly. I have to say, our Ramadan shows have gone quickly. Even the show that we did on Saturday, our Saturday potluck, it was out of here, man. But I think the reason it's out of here because I think we have some of the best people on the show, and I think we have the best family, the best community out there. So I'm going to leave it at that. So, brothers and sisters, I'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Attar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifattar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.